Hello and welcome to another edition of the Sporting Kansas City Show on your home for SKC Soccer, Sports Radio 810 WHB. And, of course, wherever you get your videos, your podcasts, you stream your online content. We appreciate you subscribing, liking, telling all your friends about the show, and listening and watching as well. We are presented, as always, by the wonderful taste of Michelob Ultra. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. And we're joined, as always, on my left by the one and only Allie Trost. Allie, how are you?
I'm well, Nate. How are you?
You're going with a nice pink denim jacket today. That is...
I was feeling the spring vibes. Tim Melia, we had some media availability today. He had on a nice little mint. I was like, we look like a couple of Easter eggs out here. I don't know. I thought about it today, and I was like, I'm just going to go for it.
I'm looking at the buttons here because is that Levi's? Is that a Levi's?
It's not Levi's.
Because it looks almost exactly like the jean jacket I had, not pink, but the design and everything in 1987 in 6th grade at Arc City Middle School. It's amazing to me how things come back around, whatever.
No, well, I was thinking about it also this morning just to tie it back to some soccer. This is more pink than Inter Miami is committing to with some of their
And if you're going to go pink,
you got
to go pink, right?
Yeah, you go pink or go home.
Yeah, that's right. Don't half step into the pink. That's
you got to commit.
I'm with you 100% on that. And on my right, not dressed in pink today, Jacob Peterson, but he does have a smart Sporting Kansas City zip-up on. So how are you today, buddy?
I'm good. I'm glad to be back here. Connell did a great job. I listened to the show. He's great as always. And my grandma, though, texted my parents, and I think it was on the phone, and she said, "Hey, what's wrong with Jacob? He hasn't been on the show for a couple weeks." So, Grandma, I'm back. All is good.
Yeah, that's right. Hey,
grandmas are the best.
That's important. Whenever I miss a show or anything, I'll immediately get a text message from my mom. Are you sick today? Is everything okay? So yes, you're good. You were not sick. You've just been busy. You're a busy guy these days.
Yeah, it's just been a busy time here out at the training center. And one of those days, my daughter was sick, so I was, doing the dad life thing.
So does it make you nervous at all that Connell is actually right behind the camera over there in a penny running up and down the sideline right now?
He's got to stay warm.
Yeah.
I get it. He was excellent.
I
know that role as a super sub for a lot of my career.
Yeah.
I respect that role.
So that just makes me think of something all of a sudden. Are there any tactics you feel like you can employ when you are one of those subs? We always see the whole crew go down there, and they're warming up in front of the cones and everything by the corner flag. Do you try to do anything to get the coach's attention, or anything like that? Or is it just, if you warm up in a certain way, you got a better chance of coming in?
No, I actually found the opposite. I feel like if I am eager and looking over this, then I won't go in.
No chance.
So I just don't even focus on what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I heard you guys talking about it. I am definitely a warm-up top for the warm-up, and then a fresh new jersey before you get in the game. I gotta say, I heard.
Yeah. Shame on me for not asking.
It needs
this.
It needs to be crisp. It needs to be clean right before you go in the game. You feel good.
Because you're breaking a little bit of a sweat during the warm-ups.
Yeah, of course. Well, you should be.
Okay. Well,
does anybody go jersey during warm-ups? I don't know that anybody does. Do they?
I don't know.
Yeah. So okay, you don't feel like it's costing you any time though? Getting the jersey on right before it's like
How long does it take you to put on?
I don't know. Sometimes I look over there and I feel like these guys are like taking something off, wait for somebody to hand it to them. It seems to me like it takes a little while.
It usually depends how much urgency is behind the substitution. Like some of them that I see happening down there, it's like really quickly. It's like snap, trying to get and then the guy's
That's the only time I notice, there's
really
an injured guy, you're playing down a man. It's like, hey, this guy's over here putting his jersey on. Come on, let's go. That's all.
Yeah. Well, Robert Voladero knew about that this weekend, right?
Yeah. He was.
Speaking of substitutions.
He had to get on quickly, didn't he? All right, so you're a jersey off. You go with the warm-up and then switch to the jersey on. Okay, that's good to know. And it's because you just want to feel good.
Yeah. And of course, these guys get paid to work out, so it's nice to take your shirt off in public.
Hey, I respect the ever-living heck out of that right there. It's like the guys that hike up their shorts in practice now. We used to see Polito would do that a lot. Dom was always good about that. And I'm here for it because, you don't get a body like that just sitting on the couch watching games the way that I do, So if you work that hard for the body, you want everybody to get a glimpse.
It's part of the show for some of the guys, too. One of my favorite stories from last year, we were on the road in Dallas, and the flight attendants who were on our flight down to the game, I think got tickets to the match. And so when we were traveling back home later that night, one of the flight attendants comes on the little speaker and and is like, great game tonight, guys. Like, it was a big win. I forget what the final score line was. And she was like, and we especially really enjoyed the short shorts of number 9 out there, or something like that. And I think it's like someone got it recorded, like one of the video team people. So all that to say, the fans enjoy it as well.
Yeah, give them a show. Did you go? I don't remember you being short guy though.
Later on, Dom.
Later on?
I mean, Dom's my roommate, so of course he rubbed off on me a little bit.
It is funny though, like how much when you look at like just the uniforms of the past, like the baggy, oversized, like how much faster could players have been if the technology as we know it to be now with how kits are made is just being so much better.
Well, they slowly had grown longer, the shorts, and now they're coming all the way back up. So we'll see if they get back to 80s NBA basketball style here.
I hope not.
That could be a little too revealing. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. Coming up on the show, we got off on a little tangent there. Coming up on the show, we're going to talk with Courtney Ford, and there is a wardrobe question I want to ask him about because Kitman was on social media going back and forth with Courtney about his holy socks. And so I do want to ask Courtney about that, but more importantly, MLS Team of the Week defender Courtney Ford, who had a terrific game helping Sporting Kansas City get a shutout against now I'm all of a sudden
Columbus
I'm already
Crew.
blanking against the Columbus Crew. I was thinking of the other yellow team. I almost said Nashville. Against Columbus this past weekend. So Courtney's going to come on the show with us. We have so much to talk about with him. And, of course, we will talk about this game against Columbus and look forward to the first of a few games against FC Dallas coming up this weekend. So we got that all coming up on the show for you. Let's get to this past weekend, guys. Sporting Kansas City, 0. Columbus Crew, 0. I want to start on the positive side, which is the shutout part. We'll get to the part about not creating enough chances and all that in a moment. But, Jacob, I'll start with you because Courtney Ford comes in to start the game. And then when Nicholas Isimat Mirin comes out because of the head injury, and now we know a broken facial bone and surgery, and he's replaced by another young player in Robert Volader, and they go out and they help Sporting Kansas City get a clean sheet. As you looked back on the game, what were some of your biggest takeaways from the way Sporting Kansas City played defensively on Saturday?
Yeah, I think that's for a team like Sporting who are still trying to figure things out, right, especially going forward. The one thing that you can control, and I disagree a little bit with Peter, but when he says, hey, it doesn't take too much, he said, talent to defend. Defending's hard, and it's more, though, a mindset, and I'm going to be hard to break down, which if it was easy, everybody could do it. Maybe he's right, maybe it's not a talent, but it is a special type of mindset. Courtney Ford has that. He is a defender first, and that's something that I thought he was excellent in that game all around. I have all these stats, which, it's something, though, as a defender at home, he was 19, and there's different websites out there, so some of these changed, but 19 of 24 in his duels won, 7 of 11 in his aerials won, 9 of 9 in his, this is the most important thing, 100% in his defensive duels won. That, to me, means that he was making it hard on the opposing attackers. 3 for 3 in his slide tackles, and then he's 3 for 4 in his loose ball duels, those German duels, those kind of like 50-50s, who's going to get there. He was immediately there on the spot. So I think that he was a huge positive because now that Easy's going to be gone for, we'll see, but it's not going to be he's not going to be back next week or in 2 weeks. It's going to be a thing here. Courtney's going to have to step up, and he's going to have to play like he did there because he was excellent. I mean, there's a reason why he made Team of the Week, but I also thought Robbie Volader came in there, did really well. That's a tough spot, especially as a center back, right? Because you're not expecting, hey, I'm going to go in early in this game. You're probably not even thinking you're going to go into the game. Right. And it took him a little while, but he was still good. 90% passing. He set up that Remy penalty shout that should have still, I can't fathom how that wasn't a penalty. And he was also 4 for 4 in his defensive duels. And the most important thing for defenders is to defend. And I thought both Logan Ndembe and Graham Zusi were good in those moments. And if that back four, I mean, Tim Melia didn't really have to do much in that game. I think if those back four or whoever it is back there, if they're hard to break down, then it gives Sporting to some time to at least work on creating chances. But I thought that was a positive. Defensively, they were excellent.
Yeah, well, and especially, too, considering, I mean, we've seen a lot of rotation so far this season, but not really at the center back position. We've seen them go out with a different formation with the 3 center backs, but for the most part, it's been Andreu Fontas and Nicholas Isimat-Marin the whole way. And so seeing Courtney Ford come in and Robert Volader come in and play the way that they did, especially considering the injury now to Nicholas Isimat-Marin, I think gives me confidence. I'm sure it gives the fan base confidence too that, hey, they've got some really good center back depth. And like you said, if Courtney Ford, now that he's going to be called upon with this injury to Issy, if he can play like that, I mean, Peter was talking all last week about a stronger defensive mentality. Those stats and even just the eye test would tell you he had that mentality in that game. So I'm with you. Huge positive with the team that, I mean, guys, I thought this was wild. 9 formations or 9 different lineups in 9 games. The only team who's played 9 games to have that much rotation, and you just want to feel confident in that depth. And I think defensively, there's a lot of confidence that can be taken from those performances. But like you said, now it's just figuring out the other piece of the puzzle, which is going forward. But if you don't concede any goals, you got a chance to walk away with the result. So that should be a big positive step for the team moving forward.
And that's why in the offseason, right, Sporting Kansas City went out and signed some veteran or even just, I mean, Courtney's 26 and Robbie's obviously a U22 signing, but they both have experience.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you go out, you add depth pieces who you're comfortable throwing in there, because Andreu Fontas was my defender of the year last year. I thought he was excellent. So you still have him there. Even with Issy's injury, he'll be back eventually, but that's why you go out and acquire those type of players.
So let me have a little bit of a moment for a rant. Or at least some questions, some pointed questions.
Gonna crack one of these open.
Yeah, maybe, because we're talking about the injury to Nicholas Isimat-Marin that happens early in the game. Jacob, if I walk up to you in a soccer game and I give you a little gentle slap to the side of the face, what happens to me? Red card, straight red card, I'm out of the game, right? The reason is we protect the head. The head injuries are a massive priority in sports in general, but particularly in sports like American football and soccer, where head injuries happen on a consistent basis. Why is it, if I go up for a header and win the ball, and you go up for that same header and you're late, and you miss the ball, and you crack me in the side of the head with your forehead, it's nothing? Is that, I don't know.
I don't have an answer. I mean, you laid out it probably should be, but it's not called. I don't know why.
I hear people say all the time, well, it's a coming together. If you kick a ball on the ground and I'm late and I go into the side of your leg with my studs, even if I was trying to make a play on the ball, there is at least a yellow card, if not a straight red card for that, right?
Yeah.
Am I more likely to give someone a concussion and a fractured face if I slap them gently on the side of the face, or if I headbutt them running at full speed? And I understand one is an intentional non-football or soccer action, and one's a soccer action, but we punish soccer actions that endanger players all the time. I'm baffled by it. And does there need to be a conversation about that, or is that just me griping because one of our guys got hurt in the process?
I don't have a good answer. I really don't. I agree. Everything you said makes complete sense. It's just not how it's officiated. So yeah, maybe we do have to have a bigger conversation about that.
Because a lot of work's been done on not punishing teams like the concussion sub. They take the
Right.
evaluation of these things a lot more seriously. But I'm with you in that. I'd be curious to see like how and I don't know. You'd have to look at a bunch of other games to see like how there are inconsistencies in officiating with these types of moments in the game. But they have at least made a lot of steps forward in protecting players from the evaluation standpoint, and also protecting teams to where the team's not getting punished for a player that goes down with a head injury.
I mean, I spend so much time watching football, just like every other American does, and it took me a while, I'll admit, as an old school football fan, to understand why certain hits in the National Football League are now punishable, and sometimes even by ejection, that used to be applauded as terrific football plays back in the day. And sometimes you see a guy get punished for one of those hits and you go, what was he even supposed to do? He was trying to hit it the right way, and the guy changed his level, and it turned into a head-to-head, not intentionally, and he still gets thrown out. And the NFL's reasoning is we want guys to actively look to avoid those hits, not just do we want them to not do it? We want them to be conscious of it at all times. And I'm thinking to myself, God, how many times do we watch guys bonk heads in soccer games?
I think it's hard to know, like, in some cases, not every case, but like the intention there. Because like for the most part, as long as both players look like they're going for the ball, like there are a lot of fouls in soccer that happen where it was very clear the guy was not at all going for the ball. And those typically, hopefully, a card is shown.
But again, if I slide into you with my studs up, halfway up your leg, even if I'm going for the ball, I still get thrown out of the game, right?
Our intention shouldn't necessarily factor into it.
Right, like recklessness is a part of the game too. And I just wonder if that shouldn't be something. I mean, if we're really serious about head injuries being a major problem in the game and we want to address them, why do we allow that play to happen? And I just, anyways, that's going to be my new thing.
Well, instead of asking us.
Okay. I'm going to take to Twitter.
Howard Webb.
I'll call Howard Webb.
Yeah.
I'll do what I can. Okay, now let's get to the other part of the story here before we take a break. And the other side of it is, you and I were talking about this after the game, Jacob. You look at the stat sheet, and you see 3 shots by Sporting Kansas City and an expected goals of 0.3. That just doesn't happen at Children's Mercy. I don't know the last time I saw a game like that. Maybe there was one this year. I don't know, but it stood out to me so much. Now look, a couple of those shots were really good opportunities. The one for Kyrie Shelton was a really good opportunity in the first half. Shallowy had a pretty decent chance in the second half. There should have been a penalty in the first half. We all agree on that, but still, that's not what we're used to seeing from Sporting KC. So, how do they get this thing going still? It's still kind of a work in progress from the attacking side of things.
Well, that's $1 million question, right?
Yeah,
I think everybody here, whether it's the staff or the players, that's what everybody's trying to figure out. Because, no, it's not. It's absolutely not good enough. And every single player or coach will say 3 shots. It doesn't matter how those could be. You could score 3 goals off of those 3 shots. It's still not enough. That's absolutely not enough. Everybody knows that. Yes, and even Sporting 100% should have had a penalty. Remy Voltaire was fouled, clearly should have been. But even if you take that out, there wasn't enough chance creation at all. And it was a little bit stagnant. I was a little surprised after the rain delay. Sporting did say, all right, hey, we got 15 minutes. Let's throw everything that we have. And it's not like the guys aren't trying. They certainly are out there. But sometimes you can get in these ruts where it's just, how do we get out? We can't really figure it out. Is it new life for players coming in, just how well Courtney and Robbie did when they were thrown back there? Is it, new guys stepping up? I don't know, because that Johnny Russell can score. Mm-hmm. That Daniel Shallowy can score. And I think we're still trying to figure out who's going to be that number 9 right now. And with Gotti Keend out, obviously, there is a lack of creativity. And that's something that everybody recognizes and everybody's working on.
Well, and something that we would always talk about, like last year, especially when they did have more of those players available, and I'm including Polito in this as well. You'd have situations where the team's going forward and it's putting the opposing defense under pressure because they're like, who do we pick up here? It's hard to make sure every guy is covered. But right now, Sporting's main threats, Daniel Shallowy and Johnny Russell, I mean, you shut them down and they just haven't maybe had as much going up the middle and in terms of, hey, we've got a lot of numbers in the box right now and all of them are equally dangerous. You can't really pay more attention to one than the other because they'll just hurt you that way. And they just haven't maybe had that danger factor in the attack this year. And it's just kind of been that missing piece.
And the 9 different lineups, that doesn't help, right?
Right, that continuity.
It's almost just that connection, right, from the back line to the front line. And when it's constantly in flux, it's hard.
Especially in the midfield. I mean, we've seen so many changes and flipping the, inverted triangle and all the things that have just, I think, like you said, played into the struggles up top. And Peter Vermees talked today during his media availability on Tuesday. He's like, look, my track record, I'm a coach who has had a lot of success with that continuity and finding that consistency, and they're still looking for that right now. But it's also at the same time a big opportunity for a lot of guys, and I think that's going to be the thing to look for in the next couple of weeks is who really kind of takes hold of that. Courtney Ford, I think, showed it this last game that, hey, he's up for the opportunity, and if he can put a consistent run of games together where he plays like he did against Columbus Crew and a Team of the Week performance, then you're going to have a lot of good competition in these different position groups.
Just a lot of times through the course of the games this year where I feel like you see something a little promising start to come, and then before it can really catch hold, one pass is just a step off, and maybe that is what you're talking about. It's just as if that chemistry's there and these guys have had enough time to work together. That pass hits Ndembe right in stride as he's going up the field instead of going out of bounds for a throw-in. And those might not seem like huge moments in the course of a game, but if it happens 5 or 6 times, that could be 2 or 3 times that turn into chances as they develop more chemistry as the season goes on. Hopefully that's going to be the case for sure for Sporting Kansas City. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to hear from one of those bright spots, Courtney Ford. Man, did he have a game. MLS Team of the Week, and really just a chance to talk to him about a lot that's happened for him since coming to Kansas City. That's straight ahead on the Sporting Kansas City Show.
As devoted Sporting KC fans, we know you travel well to support your club and its boys in blue. So, before you travel to the next away game, or anywhere for that matter, check out Kansas City International Airport's new terminal progress at buildkci.com.
And we are back on the Sporting Kansas City Show on your home for SKC Soccer, Sports Radio 810 WHB, wherever you get your podcasts, wherever you stream your video content. We appreciate you listening, subscribing, liking, telling all your friends about it. Please do. And also tell them about Michelob Ultra because they're the presenting sponsor. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. We are joined now by a current member of the MLS Team of the Week, Courtney Ford, defender for Sporting Kansas City. We already laid it all out with Jacob Peterson in the last segment. Statistically, he had all the numbers that tell you why it was such a good performance. But I think that if you watched the game yourself, you don't even need the numbers because you saw this man all over the field. Courtney, thanks for joining us, man. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Hey, what's your reaction to winning that award and just also maybe the way you felt you played in that game on Saturday?
Yeah, I think, right after the game, I was kind of still in the moment. Took a bit of time to kind of reflect, watch the game back, and, just kind of see. I was pleased with the performance. I just, was prepared for the game. I was waiting for the opportunity for a long time just to get out there and show what I'm still made of. So it was just awesome to get out there and be able to do what I've been thinking about and envisioning for the past few months.
How did you find out about Team of the Week? Who told you? Where were you?
I was actually in the pool. I was here in the pool doing workouts, and it was just like random. It just popped up, and my family started going crazy, and I'm like, but yeah, that's how I found out.
That's awesome.
So you mentioned that you've been waiting to get this opportunity. When did you start? So I know sometimes guys start to get a sense maybe in training if you're wearing the right colored penny that you might be in there. When did you start to get the sense that this start might be coming?
I think it's a little bit longer process than that. From a week-to-week standpoint, you have to be ready mentally. But I've been picturing that moment and taking advantage of the opportunity for a long time. It starts with a long injury. 2.5, 3 years out. And, that last season with the Colorado Rapids, I felt like I was physically ready. I was fit and just didn't really get an opportunity to showcase myself. So, it's one of those things that, I might not be really proud of. It's one of my flaws, but I am petty and I like to prove people wrong. So I think that that's really where the inspiration comes from, and just that being in the back of my head going forward and just ready to take the opportunity when it came.
So would you say that is like your main driver then? Like when you're in those moments in the game and is that on your mind? Like how does that kind of manifest itself in those real time moments?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I'm very confident. I'm aware of what I'm good at and where I need to work at, and I take pride in my abilities, and I take pride that the work that I put in. I stay after training, long hours working, grinding. So with that side of things, I know that I'm prepared. So from a mental side of things, those are the things that drive me, right? It's the noise off the pitch in the back that kind of drive me. Just every single game, every time I step onto the pitch, I want to prove people wrong. So it wasn't an easy, 2-3 years to go without playing, but that's ultimately really morphed me into the person I am today.
We talked a little bit about perspective, and we'll get into more of your life perspective, but what perspective did you gain from that experience? And I can get a sense of just how hard that was on you, feeling like you were ready and not getting the opportunity.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's been a long journey, but the perspective has been, from so many different aspects. The first one I'd say, I came into the league and I had a very good rookie year. It was kind of surreal. You're 20 years old, you sign, hometown somewhat. Everybody knows you. I'm on billboards, on buses, and as a 20-year-old, 21-year-old, you have a big head. You're like, I made it. And then you go through something, a very humbling experience with the injury, and it really, puts perspective back into you. It's like, well, everything can be gone just like that in a snap of a finger. So it's every time I step onto the field, I'm grateful. I'm very grateful, and I play every game like it's going to be my last game, because at the end of the day, it could be. So it's just the whole journey itself has really put things into perspective for me, and it's just sort of the way that my mindset is.
So when I wanted to be a sports broadcaster since I was in 6th grade. And my first day on campus in college, I go to meet my sportscasting professor, and he tells me, your voice is too high. You're never going to make it. And that is something, obviously, 25 years later, I'm never going to forget that, right? And it's funny because a lot of people say, I'll bet you love being able to go back to him. And I'm not saying I made it, but I have a job at least in this business. I've done it for a few years now. And the thing is, to me, it's twofold. Number one, yeah, I want to prove him and anybody else that said I couldn't do it wrong. But part of it is somebody telling you that you don't have what it takes. For me, it's been like I'm just going to have to outwork everybody then. And I'm actually grateful for the people that said some of those things to me, because I've never had the misunderstanding that I could just get by on my talent, because I was always told I wasn't talented enough. Right. Is that part of it at all for you? Just the fact that, like, well, you know what? I'll show you. I'll outwork you. I'll work until I'm the one that's here starting.
Yeah, 100%. I think, in this job in particular, there's a lot of different things that you have to balance to make sure that you're performing. And it's not just from a physical aspect. A lot of it has to do with the mental aspect. And for me, the one thing I've learned is to mentally be prepared. I have to be able to outwork everybody else. If I can outwork everybody else and I'm, putting time into my body, I'm doing the proper treatment, I'm eating right, have a good diet, staying after trainings, lifting, coming in on off days, then that aspect is taken care of. Those are the things that I'm in control of, right? So if I'm not stressing about am I being the best version of myself as a pro athlete, then my mentality is right, because everything else is uncontrollable. So it's kind of one of those things that, I check these boxes off. I'm very compartmentalized, and it's just like an everyday approach. And I feel like if I can do everything that's in my control, the rest of it will take care of itself.
So what did your game day then look like leading up to the game? You're in the starting lineup. Loved the game day fit, by the way. I was fire flames. But no, just like what, now that you kind of went through what you check off during the week, so then you wake up on game day, what does the day look like for Courtney Ford?
Yeah, it's very different when you're home than when you're away. But it kind of starts a couple days before. The night before, you got to make sure that you get your carbs in. It really means a lot to have a good meal, get good sleep. That's why I have the Aura ring, tracks your sleep, tracks your activity. But I put a lot of time and focus and energy into making sure that my sleep is good. So that's the first thing. And then you wake up and you just start chugging water, just chugging water, making sure that you take care of your body. And then the rest of the day, you kind of want to relax and you might take a power nap, which is literally 30 minutes max. You don't want to oversleep and get fatigued. But for me personally, I like to, wake up, drink water, put on a show, and then take a power nap. And then as soon as I wake up, have a meal 4 hours prior to the game, and then just start kind of flipping the switch, whether that's, sitting on the couch relaxing on the way to the stadium, you name it. But there's got to be some kind of mental switch that you tune off and switch from, real life reality, all the stressors that are going outside of soccer, just to only be prepared for the soccer game itself.
Okay, so I need some pointers on this sleep thing.
Because I think you need one of these rings.
I know.
Nate.
I got the power nap thing down. I can do that like a champ, but I have all kinds of sleep-related issues, and I'm trying to do this like Headspace meditation app thing now to calm myself down. But you said you put a lot of focus on getting a good night's sleep. And the problem I find myself with a lot of times is the more pressure I put on myself to get good sleep, the more anxiety I have about how I'm not getting enough sleep, and then I can't sleep because I'm thinking about how I can't sleep.
Right.
So how do you do it? Like, how do I get myself in the mind space like you, where I can make sure that I get quality sleep at night.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because the first week I had the exact same reaction. You know, I was thinking about it too much, and I was actually giving myself more anxiety, and I couldn't sleep. But
The first week of what?
week of wearing this
Oh,
ring,
okay.
of
Okay.
wearing the Aura ring, where I was tracking my sleep, you know, paying attention, because this breaks down everything. It breaks down the amount of REM sleep you have, deep sleep, light sleep, when you're going into those cycles.
Yeah.
And it kind of, you know, puts together basically an algorithm of what time you need to be going to sleep, you know, what time you should be eating your meals. So that's what I kind of mean. You know, I'm very aware of when I have my meal prior to sleeping, you know, the hour that I need to go to bed in, that gives me the most, you know, best chance of having efficient sleep. And then a lot of it has to do with, you know, supplements. You know, magnesium's a good one that makes me personally tired. That's also good for my muscles. So I make sure to take magnesium before sleep. Z12's another one. So you just kind of have to figure out how your body works. I think one of the things that was interesting is the earlier I tried to go to sleep, I was getting worse sleep. It wasn't very efficient. And then I started to notice, you know, when you go to sleep in your sleep schedule, which is about, you know, 10:30 to 11 p.m., and I'm getting around 7.5 hours, I actually get very good sleep. So everybody's body's different, but I think that's the cool thing about this Oura Ring is that you can, you know, figure it out by looking at those stats.
So you plug that thing into a computer as it talks to a computer, and then it gives you all the information you need? Is that how that works?
There's an app that goes along with it,
Uh-huh.
and it basically every morning, and same with your activity and whatnot, it just gives you a full report. You can open up the app on your phone whenever you want. So it's
Next
pretty
time
cool.
you see him, Nate's gonna have one of these.
I
things
know,
on.
right?
I think you need one.
Are you getting an endorsement deal for
I
this?
know. I
by
was
the way?
like,
You
I'm
should.
actually, I'm
Should
gonna
be.
clip this out. We're gonna send
If
this
you're with,
over.
Right.
what company makes it? Is it like made by like Apple or anybody
I don't
like that?
think so. It's
Okay.
called Aura. I think it's
Okay.
Oura.
Okay.
Not sure. I know it's not an Apple product, but I'm sure
Okay.
it's only a matter of time before they buy
Yeah,
out the
right.
rights.
Right.
Seriously.
If you're with Aura and
I
you're looking
know.
for a spokesperson,
You've got him
he's
right
got me
here.
sold right now.
I know.
I'm
Nate's
try to
gonna
get in
do
some
that
sleep.
after the show.
Seriously,
Right.
because I got to get up. My problem is I got to get up at like 4:30 in the morning for my job, and it's like by the time I get the kids to bed and everything, it's 10:30, and all of a sudden I start calculating how little sleep I'm going to get,
Right.
and that's like the worst thing I could possibly do.
I don't know
So
how you
then,
do it.
know,
That's
so-
stressful in itself.
I
Yeah,
really don't.
yeah.
I was
gotta
like
get the ring.
accidentally awake at 4 a.m. this morning, and I literally thought, I was like, man, the Border Patrol guys are. Alarms are going off
Hey.
here in just a moment.
Hey, we all got our things to deal
yeah.
with, though, so.
But Courtney, I want to talk about being back in KC, being with Sporting. Something that you said after the game on Saturday kind of stuck with me, because Robert Voladair goes into the match 4 minutes in after EC goes down, and you said, that's kind of your guy during the week in training. Like, you guys train a lot together, so you felt like that chemistry was there. And also mentioned how one thing you love about this team is that from top down, like, there's just really good chemistry. And I was in Arizona with you for preseason for about 10 days or so, and you just seamlessly really seemed to fit in with this group. So what was, I guess, that transition like? And it appeared to be really easy for you, but just kind of, I guess, more insight into that.
Yeah, I think it just goes to show the quality of the leadership on this team. We have a lot of veterans on the team: Johnny, Zusi, Roger, Tim. They all take pride in, really bringing guys in, and you can tell it really shows, because I made a very easy transition into the team. And, I've mentioned it a few times, but on most teams there's like 6 or 7 different cliques. 4 guys hang out here, 3 guys hang out here, and it's not necessarily unhealthy, but it's tough to, have that chemistry, on the field and off the field. But with this team, when we were going out to team meals, there's like 16, 17 guys. Everybody's together. Everybody's getting to know each other. And it really, shows in the locker room. And I think sometimes it's a little bit more difficult because we're all friends. We're all really close. So sometimes it's difficult to lay into each other in training. So I think that's something we, as a team, we've really been focused on the past couple weeks is, kind of balancing those relationships, just because we're so close off the field that we need to feel more comfortable pushing each other in training and kind of laying into each other and knowing that it's not personal. But long story short, it just has to do with the leadership of the group.
So I remember being a broadcaster for Sporting Kansas City when you came to town with Colorado. To go back to that time you talked about, you made your MLS debut here in Kansas City. What was your perception of Kansas City, the team, the club, this club? Or did you even spend much time thinking about it when you're a young player? Maybe you're just worried about your own career. What was your perception of this place from the other side?
Yeah, I mean, it's always somewhere I wanted to be. I grew up going to Kansas City Wizards games, Arrowhead Stadium, and as a young kid, when you're drawing pictures in class, second, third grade, it's that image, right? So the perception from that point of view was always that's where I want to be, But when it came down to it and signing a homegrown deal in Colorado, I knew that that might be an opportunity later on in my career, but not anytime soon. But it was always a team that I really respected. Everybody that's close to me knows that I actually really admired Peter's style of coaching. I think he's a tough coach to play for. He's hard. He demands a lot, and I personally tend to do well under coaches of that regard. So I've always kind of looked up to playing for him someday, and when the opportunity presented itself this offseason when I was a free agent, I just wanted to jump on the opportunity. There was a couple other teams that were interested, but I knew coming back and sort of getting the opportunity to do what I had dreamed of as a kid was an opportunity that I couldn't pass up.
So you mentioned being a big Wizards fan growing up, and did you watch Peter? Do you remember watching Peter? I know that may have been
as a young kid,
not
so much. You have like specific memories here and there, and there was a maybe 2 or 3 specific memories that stand out, and one was like the mascot, like the dinosaur,
Yes.
at the point.
Yep.
You're a
very
kid.
tailored to kids, by the way.
Right,
Right.
exactly. You're a kid, you watch those things. The other ones was like the fireworks after the games. Love that. And then the last one, actually a player that I got to play with, Kai Kamara. I just remember him being, so into the game, so emotional, so aggressive and mentally in tune. It was actually, full circle, getting to watch him play as a kid, just right in front of me, and then getting the opportunity to play with him when he got traded to Colorado. So
Playing for Peter now, is there anything about his coaching style or your interactions with him that you didn't expect or that surprised you a little bit in terms of what your perspective was or perception was of him before you got here?
Yeah, I think, from an outsider's view, he's kind of known as, the hard ass, one of the toughest coaches to play for in the league. And what I see as a person from him is, he's thinking 10 steps ahead of everybody else, So if he's a hard ass in a certain circumstance, he really has like a plan behind it, I think that's the thing that surprised me most is he really has an idea, a separate plan for each individual player, and he has to figure out a way to manage whatever that role is, that envision that he has for that player, and make sure that it benefits the team at the same time. So it's very impressive to see how he thinks and how many steps ahead of the game he is. And I think it's been difficult for him, trying to manage, starting lineups and whatnot when guys are, hurt, injured, in the lineup, out of the lineup. So it's been tough, but it's been such a pleasure getting the chance to play for him this far.
Is coaching? You're young. You got a long career ahead of you. Is coaching ever something that you've thought about? Is something down the road you'd be interested in doing?
I don't really think so. I think maybe more of like a GM side of things. Like I like the overarching business side of it. Even the politics of it. It's very intriguing, very interesting, and so maybe not hands-on coach, but I do see myself being able to get into it after soccer.
So one of the things that also came up during the course of the game the other day was I look on social media and people are commenting that you've got holes in your socks.
Right.
And then Kitman got involved. He tweets something about it. You're tweeting at him about it. Can you explain for us why you have holes? Holy socks is what I think Kitman referred to him as.
Yeah. So long story short, early on in my career, I struggled with calf cramps, and we tried everything in the book from Pedialyte to pickle juice to doing urine analysis, and it just really broke down to the fact that my calves cramp, and we sort of found out that they don't necessarily do well with compression. So, I stretch those socks out as much as I can, and I cut holes in them to relieve pressure of the calf. So, I see those comments as well, and it's kind of funny. It's definitely not a fashion statement, nor would the team have any problem giving me new socks if I had real holes in my socks. But no, those are definitely self-inflicted.
Are you cutting them, or is like Kitman or Sammy doing it?
No, I cut them. So they give us new socks for every game, and I stretch them out, put them on, and then I literally feel where they're tight. And I just nick small holes in them that eventually grow to be a little bit bigger by the time I get out there on the field. But there's a lot more thought that goes into
Yeah.
it than people may realize.
That's funny because you see like you see people wear compression stuff all the time now. Whether basketball players are wearing the tights or shooting sleeves, all that stuff, and you're going opposite route. Maybe
Yeah.
people are too caught up in the compression things these days.
I think everybody's bodies are different.
Yeah.
It took me a long time to realize that my body didn't do well with it. It actually, the reason I found out is, with the fluid in my knee, they would always say, oh, put a compression sleeve on, and after a year of doing it, they found out that, the fluid would the fluid process sped up every single time I had the compression on.
Oh wow.
So it's kind of one of those things where you live and you learn, but long story short, everybody's bodies are different,
Yeah.
so 90% of the population could do better with compression, but it's just not the way that my body works. So
I had another soccer-related question because I was thinking about this watching the game on Saturday. I know Colorado under Robin Fraser, they've played that 3 center back system. Even with Peter Vermees this year in some formation changes, you were playing as one of 3 center backs, playing in a 2 center back pairing this last game. Do you have a preference in terms of stylistically, like what you prefer?
Personally, I like playing in a back 3. I think it allows, the center backs to be a lot more aggressive, and, I'd like to think of myself, as more of the athletic style player, so I like being able to get up and down. You have to be a little bit more conservative when you're playing in a back 4. Obviously, you have 2 defenders instead of 3. But at the end of the day, that's part of our jobs,
Yeah.
We have to be able to bring in, learn new tactics and be able to implement them. And if you can't, then, you're not going to be successful in your career. So I have just as much fun, worrying about the tactical side of things and being able to apply them when I get to the game playing in a back 4. But I do think that it's a little bit more fun playing in a back 3 just because I get to, step in a little bit harder.
Well, Courtney, we got a lot of other things that would be fun to cover with you, so we're just gonna have to have you come on the show again sometime,
I know, yeah.
because we're gonna run out of time here. But I do want to say this, as we wrap things up here. You talked about your respect for Peter Vermees. I'm never gonna forget when they had the Zoom conference announcing you as a player here, and I know I asked you about this that day. He said that he has a special place in his heart for players who have been through some things. And you've been through some things, as we all know now, off the field with your family and on the field with your knee and working your way back. And I know what Peter's talking about there when he says that, because a person who's been through some things has a different perspective on things and a different sense of urgency about things and all that. And I think we see that from you already. We can see the intensity there, that you're here to maximize every single minute. And that makes you a really easy guy to root for. And I think the people in this town are really excited to have you back and hoping the best things for you. So thank you so much for coming on the show. We appreciate it, and we're going to have to, have you on. I might have to have you cut some holes in my socks sometime, see how it works.
Nate's taking all the notes. He's like, okay, I need this aura ring. I need to cut holes in my socks.
Hey, man, I can learn. I might be an old fart with gray hair, but I can learn from people, Hey, Courtney, thanks a lot for the time, seriously, and best of luck going forward.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks,
you.
Courtney.
Thank you, guys.
All right, that's Courtney Ford. We're going to take a break, and we'll wrap things up on this edition of the Sporting Kansas City Show right after this, presented by Michelob Ultra. And we're back to wrap things up on this edition of the Sporting Kansas City Show on your home for SKC Soccer, Sports Radio 810, WHB, and wherever you get your podcasts and stream your video content, and enjoy yourself a Michelob Ultra while we wrap this one up, as it's only worth it if you enjoy it. Allie, a great conversation with Courtney Ford. Now time for us to move forward. We only have a couple of minutes left to talk about this FC Dallas game. And right now, FC Dallas looks like a pretty salty team in the Western Conference.
Yeah, they're flying. 4th place right now in the West. I mean, how strange is it, by the way, that so many of the teams above the playoff line right now in the West completely missed out on the playoffs last season? It really has been such a shift in terms of what teams are playing really well right now and are very competitive right now versus the teams that aren't. Definitely not, I think, what a lot of us expected. But they're a dangerous team. They just won the little Texas Derby there against Houston, and that was the first time I think they won it since 2020. It's going to be a really tough matchup, and Sporting doesn't just get to see him this weekend. They get to see him then again 10 days later in the Open Cup. They've got a lot of threats. They're really deep up top, and Jesus Ferreira has been flying 5 goals and assists for them this season. So it's going to be another big test for Sporting, but like we talked about early in the show with Jacob, while the team, is still working towards getting that piece of the puzzle in the final third figured out, they can control the defensive side of the game and hopefully get another clean sheet or play really strong and tough defensively in this game because they're going to need to. Both goals that Dallas scored in that win over Houston came from second half subs. It's not a team that is going to only be able to bring it to you for, a certain number of minutes. It's going to be a tough full 90 minutes that you're going to have to be ready in defending all of their attacking threats.
And when you talk about that inversion of the table from last year to this year, Sporting obviously are a part of that. A team that was at the top of the standings last year and not so right now. It does remind me that there are some things that Major League Soccer, when they set the league up, got right, like the NFL, which is, it's from
a lot of parity.
Yeah, there's a lot of parity, and the margin between being good and bad is not very big. And if you're down one year, you can turn it around real quickly the next. And we're seeing with Texas. And another thing is, in the NFL, if you get a star player like Patrick Mahomes, they make it no matter what market you're in to where you can keep that guy around. Well, for FC Dallas, they've been selling all their best young players over to Europe, and some of that's not really by choice. You just kind of have to. But they didn't with Jesus Ferreira. They signed him to a designated player deal. And I'm wondering if that might not start a trend of some homegrown players signing big-time contracts to stay here. Certainly there's always going to be some guys going to Europe, but I wonder if that might be a trend at all with what they did with Jesus Ferreira.
Yeah, it is interesting. And, it's work. If we're looking at it from the player standpoint, it's working out for him, right? He's getting that exposure. He's putting up the numbers.
And he's getting looks on the national team.
And he's getting looks on the national team. So I think the goal for a lot of players is eventually to go to Europe. And it's really just about making sure, because there are arguments that can be made. I know Josh Sargent's a player where a lot of people talk about, well, maybe did he go a little too soon? Could he have had a stop in MLS where he could have maybe developed a bit more and before making that jump? So it's so different from player to player, but I think it's a big positive for some of these teams and for the league as a whole to see a player like Jesus Ferreira sign that deal, have this kind of success, not just for FC Dallas, but also for the national team as well. We talk about it all the time. The next 5 to 10 years in Major League Soccer are going to be fascinating, just given how much that aspect of the game here in the United States has grown, those developmental leagues and how they're developing players to not just, come in and be MLS level talent, but world talent. And you're seeing that a lot more. But it's just going to be really fascinating to watch. It's really exciting.
It's going to be a good matchup with Sporting Kansas City taking on FC Dallas on Saturday, 7:30 at Children's Mercy Park. Pre-game coverage at 7 o'clock on the Sporting KC app, sportingkc.com/live, 38 The Spot, and Sports Radio 810 WHB. And we might have some Missouri Tigers in the house. Allie's very excited about that. Hey, I'm excited about it too. Well, let's go. Let's have everybody involved, and that's going to be a lot of fun. So we'll see you on Saturday. Our thanks to Courtney Ford and Jacob Peterson for joining us on the show today as well. We're presented by Michelob Ultra, and we'll see you next time on the Sporting Kansas City Show.